For those that don't know, you can just hit a little bird and tell people that you are here and that you are building your capacity, you're building your mind here on Social Media Book Club. And today we're talking about sometimes you win, sometimes you learn. So that's a book. Yes, that's a book by John Maxwell. John Maxwell, he wrote a book called Sometimes You Win, Sometimes You Learn. So here's how it works, guys. I'm gonna actually read this thing. It's gonna be like the first 15 pages. We're gonna read this. Hopefully you consume it, and we're gonna go back and start talking about it. So the first 15 minutes is just reading. The second 15 minutes is us discussing. And that's how we have this building up this empowerment. We're gonna build up our capacity in our mind. We're gonna focus on those things that's gonna fill us up on the inside. And I like to call this Wealthy University, because you guys, a lot of people take selfies. I take wealthy. I'll be like, and that's my wealthy. You see that? Yeah, that's my wealthy. So that's what I do. I take a wealthy. So here's the deal. We are going to go through this book, start reading it from the beginning. It just came on my spirit. I was reading As a Man Thinketh. I was thinking and Grow Rich. I was thinking As a Man Thinketh. I got a whole bunch of books. And people asked me to open up my library. They wanted to see why am I being so successful? You know, and I keep telling them, and I think everybody knows that if you want to be successful, you should read. And most successful people will tell you that, hey, if you want to be successful, you should read. So my question is, if we know what we should do to be successful, then why don't we just do it? So the purpose of this is to bring those people that are saying, I want to be successful, those people that are saying, hey, I vibe with this, those people are saying, hey, I know I need to read more. Maybe you can just join with me and we can read together, or I can read to you, whatever the case may be. And we can have conversations about these things that are changing our life. And then we can hopefully, get some momentum going, get other people interested in reading. So that's what Social Media Book Club is all about. You take 30 minutes out of your day to not only just eat your lunch to sustain your body, but you have some food for thought to sustain your mind. Let me say that again. You don't just eat to sustain your body, but you read to sustain your mind. Because if your mind goes, your body going to follow it anyway. Wherever your mind goes, that's where your body, that's where your life is going to flow. So, you know what they say, if you put it in the book, no one will ever find it. Well, we're finding it. We're extracting the nuggets out of these books that we read. So we're going to start with the Sometimes You Win, Sometimes You Learn from John Maxwell. And what we're going to do, we're going to get to a space where it's like 5 principles as to why losses hurt so much. So once I get to that place, I'm going to change the topic, and then we can just retweet and resend out to our friends what we're talking about at the time when we get to this through this book. So let us begin. Chapter 1 from Sometimes You Win, Sometimes You Learn from John Maxwell. When you're losing, everything hurts. When you're losing, everything hurts. My friend Robert Schuller once asked, what would you attempt to do if you knew you wouldn't fail? What would you attempt to do if you knew you wouldn't fail? Now, that's a great question, an inspiring question. When most people hear it, they start dreaming again. They are motivated to reach their goals and to risk more. I have a question that I think is just as important. What do you learn when you fail? What do you learn when you fail? While people are usually ready to talk about their dreams, they are not well prepared to answer a question about their shortcomings. Most people don't like to talk about their mistakes and failures. They don't want to confront their losses. They are embarrassed by them. And when they do find themselves falling short, they may find themselves saying something trite, such as, sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. The message is hope to win, expect to lose, and live with the results either way. The message is hope to win, expect to lose, and live with the results either way. How many of you guys know people that are living with that message? What's wrong with that? It's not how winners think. At the end of the day, that's not how winners think. Successful people approach losing differently. They don't try to brush failure under the rug. They don't run away from their losses. Their attitude is never sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. Instead, they think sometimes you win, sometimes you learn. They understand that life's greatest lessons are gained from our losses if we approach them the right way. Life's greatest lessons are gained from our losses if we approach them the right way. So as I'm reading, guys, if you got anything to say, anything to share, anything that lights your fire, just drop it in the comments below. That way we can come back and we start talking about it. And I see you, Chuck, Christian, James. Thanks for joining. If you want to, I'm going to go ahead and follow you, sir. All Things Family. When we get to the discussion part, if you feel like jumping in the open seat and having a discussion, we can do that as well. So thanks so much for joining. This one really hurts. Or this one really hurt. This is an experience from John Maxwell. I've experienced many wins in my life, and I've always found, and I've also had more of my share of losses. Some losses came through no fault of my own. However, many were my own making, coming from bad choices and dumb mistakes. On March 12th, 2009, I made the mother of all stupid mistakes. How many of you guys have made some stupid mistakes? No, I have. I tried to go through security at a major airport with a forgotten handgun in my briefcase. That is a federal offense. It was by far the dumbest thing I've ever done. Here's how it came about. The previous Saturday, I was in Birmingham, Alabama, speaking at the Church of the Highlands. It was a wonderful church with a marvelous leader named Chris Hodges. He is a good friend who serves on the board of Equip, the not-for-profit organization I founded to teach leadership internationally. Chris's people are fantastic, and I had a terrific time with them that weekend. Many times when I have a speaking engagement, I fly commercially, but whenever the engagement isn't far away from home and it means that I would be able to come home and sleep in my own bed, I try to fly on a private airplane. That was the case for my time with Chris in Birmingham. As I was about to get on the plane at the General Aviation Airport to fly home, a friend of Chris's who had ridden with us wanted to give me a gift, a Beretta pistol. This was for Margaret, he said, so she can feel safe when you're traveling. Margaret's his wife. I have friends who know a lot about guns. Some do a lot of hunting, and I've gone hunting with friends several times. I shot rifles and shotguns, but don't really know a lot about guns, and to be honest, they don't have a great interest to me. I'm not a really pro or anti-gun. I just don't think a lot about them. I am not a technical person, but I knew this pistol had been given as a gift from the heart, so I accepted it and put it in my briefcase. After we landed, the pilot remarked on what a nice gun it was, and he asked me, "Do you know how to load it?" I said, I have no idea, I answered. "Let me do it for you," he said. He loaded the gun, made sure it was secure, and gave it back to me. I put it in my briefcase and went home, and then I forgot all about it. The next several days were very busy for me. I had a commitment to speak to a large group in Dallas, and I was entirely focused on getting ready for it. There was one brief moment while I was working on my lesson when I thought to myself, oh, I need to remember to get that gun out of my bag. But I was in the middle of writing, and I didn't want to stop because I was on a roll. So I thought, I'll do it later. How many times have we know we need to do something? We get busy in a day, totally forget about it, like, hey, I'm going to do it later, I'm procrastinate, and then we forget about it. Time passed. Life was busy. I kept working, and before I knew it, Thursday morning rolled around and I was off I went to the airport. If you're my age, you may remember a cartoon character named Mr. Magoo. He was a man who seemed to wander from danger to danger without ever getting hurt. Some of my friends used to call me Mr. Magoo. If you're not old enough to know Mr. Magoo, maybe you remember Forrest Gump. Friends have called me that too. On that Thursday, in my worst Mr. Magoo moment, I strolled right up to the security and dropped my briefcase on the conveyor belt. Just as I was about to walk through the metal detector, I remembered the gun. In a panic, I blurted out, "There's a gun in there. There's a gun in there." Truly, it is one of the stupidest things I have ever done. I felt like an idiot. And to make matters worse, many of the people who were at the security checkpoint knew me, including the man who operated the screening device. He said, "Mr. Maxwell, I'm sorry, but I will have to report this. Trust me." That came as no surprise. They stopped everything, shutting down the conveyor belt, handcuffed me, and took me away. It turned out that the head of the sheriff's division who filled the police report knew me too. He was all business for about an hour. But then after he had completed the procedure, he turned to me, smiled, and said, "I love your books. If I had known we would meet up like this, I would have brought them here for you to sign. If you could get me out of this mess, I'd give you signed books for the rest of your life," I replied. The man who took my mugshot knew me. When they brought me into the room where he worked, he said, "Mr. Maxwell, what are you doing here?" He took the handcuffs off of me and told the officer that I didn't need them. Needless to say, when he took my picture, I didn't smile. Assessing the loss. Immediately after being released on bail, I met my attorney who said, "Our main goal is to keep this quiet." "That's impossible," I responded, telling him that all the people I encountered who knew me during this entire ordeal. Sure enough, the news broke that evening. In order to let people know what happened to minimize publicity damage before the news broke, I tweeted the following message. Definition of stupid. Receive a gun as a gift, forget it's in the carry-on, and go to the airport. Security, not happy. Too often in life, I have been careful enough. I knew better than to put a gun in my briefcase. Immediately after security found the gun, I began silently lecturing myself about my carelessness. The words of Hugh Prather fit me perfectly. I sometimes react to making a mistake as if I have betrayed myself. My fear of making a mistake seems to be based on the hidden assumption that I am potentially perfect. And if I can just be very careful, I will not fall from heaven. But a mistake is a declaration of the way I am, a jolt of the way I intend, a reminder that I am not dealing with facts. When I have listened to my mistakes, I have grown. When I have listened to my mistakes, I have grown. The words, be careful, have been my takeaway from this experience. Mistakes are acceptable as long as the damage isn't too great. Or, as they say in Texas, it doesn't matter how much milk you spill as long as you don't lose your cow. I am convinced that we are all one step away from stupid. I could have lost my cow because of this incident. None of us does this. None of us does life so well that we are far away from doing something dumb. And what it has taken a lifetime to build has the potential to be lost in a moment. My hope was that a lifetime of striving to live with integrity would outweigh an act of stupidity. Fortunately, as soon as the story became public, my friends started to rally around me and support me because I knew that people would begin asking questions about it. I immediately wrote about it on my blog, johnmaxwellleadership.com, and a post called "Stupid Is as Stupid Does." He capitalized on it. The supportive response from people was overwhelming. The words of encouragement and prayers certainly lifted my spirit. Other friends took a more humorous approach to me. When I went to speak at the Crystal Cathedral, Gretchen Schiller said, "John, security wants to pat you down before you speak." Bill Hybels wrote me a note that said, "No sex, no money scandal, boring." Angela Williams emailed my assistant, Linda Eggers, with these words, "Tell John he's my hero. His estimation has risen in my eyes. I come from a long line of Bubbas, lots of pistol-packing men and women." Art's mom was arrested in Atlanta airport in the 80s for having a Clint Eastwood-type pistol in her large purse. She, too, forgot about it. And Jessamine West pointed out, it is very easy to forgive others their mistakes. It takes more grit and gumption to forgive them for having witnessed your own. Then I started to receive people's suggestions for the title of my next book, including Developing the Gangster Within You, 21 Irrefutable Laws of Airport Security, the 21 Indisputable, Irrefutable Reasons Why Not to Forget Your Gun in Your Briefcase When Going to the Airport, Leading from the Middle of the Game, Have Gun, Will Travel. Today, I feel very fortunate because the incident was dismissed by the court and it has been expunged from my record. I can laugh about the whole thing. In fact, not long after your ordeal, I created a reminder for myself of the fact that in life, sometimes you win, sometimes you learn. I often carry it in my briefcase instead of a gun. It's a laminated card. On one side is the April 2009 cover of the Success magazine. I was featured on that cover and I look great. $1 million smile, blue suit, a posture of success and confidence. 500,000 people bought that magazine, saw my picture, and read my words about success. On the other side is my mug shot. It was taken only 2 weeks after the magazine came out. No $1 million smile, no blue suit, just sweats, poor posture, and a look of complete discouragement. It just goes to show you that there is not much distance between the penthouse and the outhouse. There's not much distance between the penthouse and the outhouse. So, guys, I can read a little bit more. I'm gonna read the first. Number one number one reason why losses hurt so much. Then we'll stop there and we'll talk and we'll discuss. So, if you guys want to jump in the hot seat and discuss, we can do that. Why losses hurt so much? Just gonna go through the first one. We'll pick back up tomorrow. In life, sometimes you win. Oh, I got to change the topic. I'm sorry. If you guys got any thought, I only got one prop. I guess I don't read well enough for you guys. Oh, that's fine. Hey, how you doing? I guess I don't read well enough for you guys for me to get more than one prop. That's cool. I appreciate it. So right now I'm going to change the topic to why losses hurt so much. And boom, topic changed. And I'm going to tweet this thing out to my followers. Why losses hurt so much. You want to send a tweet, let people know that you're here. And we're going to talk about why losses hurt so much as soon as this thing come up. Oh, no problem. Okay, cool. Well, if you want to join us when we get done and you got anything to share, you want to boost your following, that's great. So you can just tell a little bird, let them know that you're here. I just did that. So why losses hurt so much in life? Sometimes you win. In my younger years, I played basketball and was very competitive. I liked to win. I hated losing. When I was in my early 20s, I went to a class reunion where I played in a game against other former players. We were all eager to prove we could still play at the same level, and it turned out to be a very physical game. Of course, I wanted to win, so I was very aggressive. After I knocked one opponent to the floor, he shouted in frustration, "Back off, it's only a game." My reply, "Then let me win." I'm not exactly proud of that, but I think it illustrates how much most of us like to win. When we win, nothing hurts. When we lose, everything hurts. When we win, nothing hurts. When we lose, everything hurts. And the only time you hear someone use the phrase "it's only a game" is when that person is losing. Think of some of the losses in your life and how they made you feel. Think of some of the losses in your life and how they made you feel. Not good. And it's not just the pain of the moment that affects us. Our losses also cause us other difficulties. And here are a few. We'll just go over the first one, then we'll pause till tomorrow. Number one, losses cause us to be emotionally stuck. Losses cause us to be emotionally stuck. Author and speaker Les Brown says, "The good times we put in our pocket, the bad times we put in our heart." The good times we put in our pocket and the bad times we put in our heart. I found that to be true in my life. In my heart, I still carry some of the bad times. I bet you do too. The negative experiences affect us more deeply than the positive ones. And if you're like me, you may get emotionally stuck. Recently, I experienced being emotionally stuck after I made a foolish mistake. Ron Puryear, a wonderful friend, invited me to stay a few days at his beautiful river house in Idaho so that I could get away and begin writing this book. The view overlooks a beautiful body of water with tree-covered hills in the background. It's spectacular. Since I had speaking gigs in Spokane, Edmonton, and Los Angeles, all Western cities, I decided to take him up on his offer. Oh, wow, fantastic. My son-in-law, Steve, and our friend Mark were with me because they would be going to Edmonton, Canada. As we got into that car in Spokane, Washington to head to the airport, Steve asked, "Do we all have our passports?" My heart sank. I had forgotten mine. Now, this was no simple matter of turning around and going back to get it. I was out west and my passport was in Florida, more than 2,000 miles away. In 6 hours, I was supposed to be speaking in Edmonton. I started to feel sick. What was I going to do? How can an experienced international traveler like me make such a foolish error? I felt like an idiot. Steve, Mark, my assistant Linda, and I tried to solve the problem over the next 2 hours. Each passing minute revealed that I had a big problem. I knew I would not be allowed to board a plane to Canada without my passport. Trust me, I asked. We also discovered that we could not get the passport in time via Air Express, nor would a family member in Florida be able to get on a commercial flight and bring it to me in time. I would not be able to fulfill my speaking commitment that night. The situation felt impossible to solve. Finally, after a lot of work and creative thinking, we found a solution. Our host in Edmonton agreed to move my evening speaking engagement from that night to the following evening. Meanwhile, we had a private jet to fly from Florida to Spokane with my passport. In my mind was a ridiculous picture of someone placing the passport in one of the seats as if it were a passenger. Boy, did I feel stupid. At midnight, when the plane arrived, we got on board and continued on to Edmonton. We arrived the next morning, and I was there for the next day's meeting and the evening speaking engagement. We had made it. The good news was that we had solved the problem. The bad news was that the price of fixing my mistake was $20,000. The rest of the day, I was emotionally stuck. I continually asked myself, how could a veteran traveler like me make such a rookie mistake? How much inconvenience did I cause the people who had to move my meeting from one night to the next? Why didn't I think about my passport 24 hours earlier so it would have cost me hundreds of dollars instead of thousands? What would I have done if we had not found a solution? All these thoughts and questions exhausted me emotionally. To try to bounce back, I drank a milkshake, comfort food, went swimming, and tried to rest. But no matter what I did, I still continually kicked myself for being so dumb. I felt like a slave to my own mood and feelings. I usually process through mistakes and failures pretty quickly, but I didn't feel free to do that this time. I was having a very tough time breaking out of my self-imposed prison of what ifs. I can laugh about it today, but even now I still feel foolish for forgetting something so basic. It's been said that if an ocean liner could think and feel, it would never leave the dock. It's been said that if an ocean liner could think and feel, it would never leave the dock. It would be afraid of the thousands of huge waves it would have to encounter during its travels. Anxiety and fear are debilitating emotions for the human heart. So are losses. They can weaken, imprison, paralyze, dishearten, and sicken us. To be successful, we need to find ways to get unstuck emotionally. To be successful, we need to find ways to get unstuck emotionally. So we're going to stop right there. We're going to have a discussion here about what we've read, what we listened to, what we heard. Miss 11 Lessons, if you want to join us, you want to jump in a hot seat with us, that'll be great. If you are uncomfortable, that's fine. Oh, here you go. Fantastic. Thanks so much for joining. Beautiful, looks like wife and husband in your picture there. Hey, how are you?
I'm good. This is the first time I've ever done this, so I'm assuming you can hear me.
I can hear you. Yes, I can hear you.
Okay.
So this is your
Great.
first. This is your first time on Blab.
Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna give you some props. Thanks for joining.
Yay.
So anybody that's watching here, we got Miss Chuck Christine James, or maybe
Yeah.
she's Christine and her husband's
Yeah.
Chuck.
Yeah.
And they're the first time on Blab, and she decided
Mhm.
to join us here on the Social Media Book Club. So Miss Christine,
Yes.
what brought you to this of all of the Blabs that are out there? What connected you to this one?
Well, I was just kind of curious, so I checked into it, but you got my attention with the book reading, and I'm definitely one who enjoys books. I devour them, and I do like self-improvement type books, and so anything that I can get my hands on to help improve myself, my mindset, I enjoy that sort of thing. So definitely caught my
Fantastic.
attention.
Fantastic. Well, we're glad we got somebody to jump in. It's very hard to get people's attention when it comes to talking about reading. They think it's so boring and dull. But I think this is a great way for us to express that, because then we can talk, we can read something, we can have a
Yeah.
conversation about it, which is
Yeah.
absolutely phenomenal. That's you have that engagement going on. So we just read the first little part of sometimes you win and sometimes you learn. So maybe you could share with us, and I know you mentioned the experience about when you look at your lessons as learning opportunities. Tell us about a time that you didn't win, but you learned, and maybe that learning experience caused you to win later.
Sure. Well, I'll tell you one of the most recent ones that was pretty painful for me. My husband and I'm a stay-at-home mom. We have 11 children. That's why it's 11 lessons.
Got it.
Okay. So anyway, so my husband was applying for another job, and it was a job that was in a place that we thought would be better for our family, and it would be something that would provide better for our family. And everything was going well, and he had been called back for several interviews, and it looked like he had even gotten an offer of sort, and he had not yet finalized the deal. And as they were doing the background check, there were some things that financially weren't taken care of, and so it caused us to lose that job opportunity. And that was really hard. It was hard for my husband. It was hard for me. It was hard for our kids, because even they were excited about the move. And anyway, so it was very heart-wrenching. And so it took a couple of days to kind of settle with it. It took us, we were trying not to be all depressed about it. But it took a couple of days to kind of come to terms. And then after a while, we just like, okay, to me, it reminded me of like, the Noah's Ark. We weren't prepared. Neither were the people who didn't get on the ark. And so there were consequences that happened because of that. And so it was just a big lesson for me and my husband. We thought, okay, it's time to get those financial things that are not right taken care of, and to not lose out on another opportunity. And so it was a hard lesson, but it was a lesson we learned, and we are hoping to move forward in that area. Still making progress on that.
Making progress. Absolutely fantastic. Yeah. And that's the key word, progress, right? I've learned that as we make progress, we can start to focus on the future instead of the past. If we're not making progress, then we sit still idly and we start thinking about maybe the things that we did wrong, the mistakes. Like you said, we get stuck emotionally. But then once we get that light and we're like, oh, there is a light at the end of the tunnel, and we're making progress towards that light, we no longer feel that same feeling, because now we have it's a feeling of passion, a feeling of joy, because we're moving in the right direction, whatever that is for you. So quick question for you. Please tell us where you're from. I'm from Atlanta, Georgia. Where are you at right now?
Okay. I'm from California, out in the Mojave Desert. So I'm
Mojave
not what
Desert.
you not typically what you think of in California. There's
I wouldn't
Joshua
have,
trees all
yeah,
around.
I wouldn't have thought about California at all. So, in this book, what I like about this book is that they highlight a couple of things as far as like some good quotes to take with you. And so we got two quotes from the first part that I mean, obviously there was a lot more, but two quotes that stuck out. And I'd like you kind of speak on this and what these quotes mean to you. The first
Okay.
one is, when I've listened to my mistakes, I have grown. When
Mm-hmm.
I've listened to my mistakes, I have grown. What does that quote mean to you?
Well, so another experience I had way back when I was a teenager, it was extremely painful and embarrassing. I was working at a fast food place, and I was the cook. And so at night when we closed up shop, we had to clean out the fry grease,
Yeah.
and we would have to use a metal bucket. Well, for I don't know what happened in my brain, but I was so tired, I wasn't thinking, and I grabbed a plastic bucket and I drained the hot grease into a plastic bucket, and all over the floor in the restaurant was covered in grease. It was so embarrassing, and it was humiliating. And so I had to help clean it up. Of course, my boss, I'm surprised she didn't fire me. But it was just a humiliating experience. And it took me a couple of years to learn a lesson from that. And that lesson was that that people make mistakes. Sometimes we're just dumb. we just don't know any better, and
Yeah.
we have to be okay with that and just move past it and just learn to laugh at those things that that are, we just can't explain.
Yeah, you can't explain it.
Yeah. So
It,
I don't know.
That's
That was my
interesting.
thought.
That's interesting that you say that, right? Because a lot of times, not only if we recognize that we make mistakes, then we can also recognize that other people make mistakes.
Yeah.
And
Good point.
and when other people make mistakes, a lot of times we take it to heart. Like, you're personally damaging me because of this mistake that you make, whatever it is. And we lose the idea that, dang, I've made mistakes too. So it's almost as if we expect other people to be perfect, but we allow ourselves to be imperfect sometimes in our mentality. And I just think that's interesting in the relationships, and when I say relationships, I'm talking about from co-workers to family relationships to loving relationships to husband and wife. We always have to remember that, hey, I've made mistakes too. Say, he who was without sin cast the first stone, right? It's like, it's
Exactly.
almost as
Yeah.
if, oh, okay, you can't make a mistake. You can't do something stupid. You can't just totally screw it up, but I can. And if I make one, I want you to have sympathy for me. But if you make one, oh no, we can't talk no more. It's like, it's the craziest thing how we treat other people when we don't realize, when we don't take into account that, hey, we've made mistakes too. And so it's good that as you think about it, you learn from your own mistakes, then you're like, hey man, I did this dumb thing back in, when I was a teenager, and it was a huge mistake, and it was humiliating. So I wonder, how do we make other people feel when they make mistakes?
Well, I think you said it already. I think that we allow people in their path to be imperfect because they're on the same journey we are, right? We're all trying to, well, in my understanding is we're all trying to get back to a God in heaven. And so it's just the path that we're on. And so we all have different levels that we're on and or at, and we need to be understanding that maybe they're just not quite there yet, and be forgiving as it's kind of like, if we're trying to be like our Savior, if we're trying to be like him, we need to be forgiving like he is. We need to be just as loving as he is. And if we're not being forgiving to our spouse or our children or whomever, then we're not being Christ-like. And so for me, that's what I have to tell myself. Okay, am I allowing them to improve? Am I allowing them to accomplish things on their own schedule, their own pace, their own learning progress? And for me, that's helpful. But you've already said that.
Yeah, and it's the point that mistakes give you the ability to grow. If you don't make any mistakes, then you're going to always think that you're perfect.
That's well.
That's very interesting. And so the other quote, this is the last one. He said that and I mean, this is good. Les Brown's one of my
I like Les Brown.
So Les Brown says that the good times we put in our pocket, the bad times we put in our heart. The good times we put in our pocket. The bad times we put in our heart. What are your thoughts about that quote?
I'm not sure. I have to think about that, I think, a little more. But the bad times, I think, just I think that we need to be sensitive to those things and maybe learn from them. But other than that, I think that we need to not dwell on them too much. Think negatively on them. Otherwise, we'll get stuck there. So I'm not really sure.
Yeah, for me, it gives me, I look at things paradoxically, right? So I'm like, man, okay, well, if this is true, and it's been pretty true, you put it in your pocket, put it in your heart, then I'm saying to myself, man, how can I start to put the good times in my heart?
Right.
And see, we live in a negative world, right? So it's like, you can have everything going perfect in your life, but you don't accentuate that. It's not like, oh man, I'm having an awesome day today. It's awesome. It's fantastic. We're doing this. We're doing that. It's just great. But as soon as one bad thing happens, that whole thing shocks your world. And you're like, man, you just think on that. You think on that. You think on that.
Yeah.
You give that so much power in your life, that one mistake, that one issue, that one concern, when you got 20 million things going good in your life, you don't even see that no more. And I tell people like this, I say, there's some people in your world that no matter how clean the window is, no matter how big that window is, they're going to always find that one speck. And they're going to focus on that speck and act like they can't see the rest of the outside of the window because they focusing on that speck. And I think that many of us, we do this in our life. We put it in our heart, that one issue, but we fail at that time, at that moment, we're failing to see all of the great things that we got in our pocket, all of the good times we have experienced, all of the good things that are going on in life, all the good relationships and the support that we have and all this stuff. Because we're just natural problem solvers, right? We see this problem, like, we gotta fix this thing.
Well, I had a friend tell me, I asked an older woman of mine who has a husband who's very busy, and an older friend of mine whose husband is very busy, because my husband's a very busy person. And I said, how do you handle that emotionally? How do you do it with a happy heart, with not being grumpy about it? And she said her mom gave her the advice to not have vinegar on the heart. And so that to me was a great visual of what it means to let bitterness into your heart, to be grumpy, to focus on the negative, like you said, and instead focus on the good things. And anyway, I always thought that was good advice for me.
Absolutely. So, Miss Christine, I know this is your first time on Blab. What brought you to Blab? What are you looking to do? Are you looking to do some shows? You just heard about it, say, hey, I want to just find out what this thing is all about. What brought you to Blab?
A little of both. My husband and I, we do want to do something for families. We have not yet created a product. We want to create online products. We're in the process of writing a book, and so just kind of trying to figure things out, wanting to know what we should be doing with ourselves. Our focus is more Christ-centered, so it is more religious-based probably. But so then I started hearing things about Blab, and I thought, well, maybe that's the avenue I should take when it comes to interviewing people, or I guess mostly interviewing people, or even just having some sort of a video podcast or something, except I don't really know anything other than just watching you. So
well,
anyway,
well, Blab, I don't know what other networks that you have, but it gives you the opportunity to connect with people all over the world, live stream. I think of it as a mix between Google Hangouts and Periscope. And you can do a lot of cool things with it. Even if you don't necessarily have an interview, you have a place where you can share your message and people can just watch and listen for free. I mean, right now, while it's a beta, I don't know how long it's going to be free, but it's free right now.
Right.
And then you just never know, like you here today, you just never know who's going to tune in.
Right.
And who you can make a connection with, and who you can support, and who you can build your network with. And so that's great. You get an opportunity to share what you're doing with your Twitter and Facebook followers and all that good stuff as well. You get a chance to record it and watch it over and critique yourself and get better and things like that. So I think it's a great platform for the yous and eyes of the world who have a voice, and then we can let our voice now be heard, and it can connect with whomever, whenever, wherever, all over the place. So definitely.
Great. Yeah. So now you said you can record it. I know Periscope, when you record it, you can't, it's a 24-hour access, but then you can also save it Is that
Yeah.
something that you could do with Blab? I assume maybe as
Yeah,
well.
so the difference is with Blab, it's going to stay up on your replays. I don't know how long, but a lot of my recordings are still there. So people that subscribe
Okay.
to my channel, they can go back and watch anything that I've done. And
Oh,
it's
okay.
also recorded where I can download it now. With Periscope, it goes to your phone, but with Blab, it goes to your wherever PC or wherever you want it to go. And
Okay.
so what I do then is I take that recording, I put it onto my YouTube channel for my YouTube subscribers, so they can catch it as well. So
Nice.
you can reach,
Nice.
whoever you want all over, and then I take that YouTube thing and I put it back on Facebook so people can watch it right from Facebook. So a lot of
Right.
cool things that you can do, and build up your following and get people to follow you and be, and that vibe with what you're putting out.
Mm-hmm.
So especially when you get this book written, we definitely need to get you back on and hear about this book, because this is the book club. So we can read your
Yeah,
book.
there you go. Yeah, thank you. Hadn't even thought of that.
So, Miss Christine,
Great.
what I've done is I have followed you, and so
Okay.
anytime that you like put something out, I'll be able to kind of know about it, and you can
Wonderful.
follow me, and we can maybe connect on Twitter and stuff as well. So then, as you get going, if you ever need some support, ever need some help with something, just reach out, and I'll share what I can share with you.
I will. I appreciate that.
So, guys, this is Social Media Book Club. John Maxwell, sometimes you win, sometimes you learn. We just had this great discussion. We went through the one of the keys to why losses hurt so much. We found out from John Maxwell, because you get emotionally stuck. And so we talked about getting unstuck, and we'll continue this on our next episode, which will be tomorrow at noon. So you guys want to expand your brain, expand your territory. You want to have a wealthy position. Wealth starts in the mind, and we have to build that thing up. We got to get all that trash out and start to build up our mind so that we can become the people, the successful people that we want to be. So we'll be here tomorrow at noon, 30 minutes. That's it. You eat your lunch, and then you get with us. You get some food for your body, you get some food for your thought, and you'll see your life to take off and skyrocket. Thank you so much, Miss Christine, for joining us today.
Thank you.
Hopefully you'll be back tomorrow if you have the time. I don't know, you
Yeah.
got 11 little ones, so I don't know when they might be running around. But we love to have you back as we continue through this journey through sometimes you win, sometimes you learn.
Thank you.
Any final words for the people, Miss Christine?
What you no.
All right, Miss Christine.
Have a great day.
Wonderful day. Hope to see you soon.